Hey friends, I'm Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti. Welcome to welcome to Whoop Wednesday. We're gonna be checking out the WeBleedFPV Crown version prototype version 2 frame here tonight, and we're gonna put it onto. I'd said previously I was going to wait for this 0603 build and put it on here, but it just makes way too much sense to put it onto the build that has the WeBleed motors on it. So we're going to pull apart this Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop that's in the Meteor 65 airframe and, yeah, put the crown frame in here. And then the this frame is going to go onto that 603 rig. So yeah, that's the main thing that we're doing tonight. This is a Q&A stream, as they all are. The first little video that I played for you there on the intro, I was not dragging around this skeleton. It was the Cinesplore with those new Axis Cinematic 2004 motors. the tune is very weird. The roll axis has plenty of pit authority. The pitch axis does not, but it's not that bad. And that's always, the pitch axis is always a problem with these Cinewhoops that have a full size, where the hell is it? Full size Fat Boy GoPro all the way up front on them. The yaw axis is what's really confusing me. The yaw axis is a hot mess, and then there's a certain throttle value that causes it to oscillate. It gets into its own oscillations and tries to fly away. So yeah, the tune on that Cinesplorer needs a little bit of help. I've been through a couple of different sets of motors on that, and the only motors that tune would work properly on and be totally clean on were these extra lightweight Brother Hobby 2004 3950s. So yeah, there's just been I don't know, it just needs a little bit of love. I took a black box log and I sent it to Brandon's Baked Beans. I was like, dude, no rush whatsoever. It's Halloween. But if you ever have a couple of minutes free, this might be a weird one. So yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm thinking about asking Bob for the 3D file for the Cinesplorer arms. And I'm thinking of getting a couple sets of 4mm thick arms cut for it. It's on 3mm arms, and usually they're fine. The tune, it's not the easiest rig to tune though. The 3mm arms, as long as you have the ducts on it, are usually fine. But it's kind of like right on the edge. And I think that, like, I love that they're lightweight. And I'll be sad to see some of that lightweightness go, but yeah, I don't know. The Tooth Fairy 2 has 4mm arms, and it's way easier to tune. So yeah, I don't know. We'll see. I'm gonna so yeah, this rig I've worked with Brandon before on, and it's been a little bit of a problem, and I think I've swapped out I don't know, we'll see. We'll work with it again, and there's a chance that I might swap out either the flight controller or the ESC just to make sure that it's not an electrical noise related issue. But yeah, I don't know, we'll see. So yeah, this was fun. So then the second little battery there, where I was just kind of flying up to the neighbors and flying up to Maggie, I had this little ghoul zip tied to the bottom of it, and it flew even weirder, but it was just, a fun thing that took 1 second to do, which we should all be doing. We should all be using our drones to do dumb stuff. It's super fun. So yeah, do that. Next opportunity, you can hang something off the bottom of one of your rigs. Do it. It's super fun, and the neighbors freak out. So yeah, that was how I started my Halloween. Hope you guys all had an excellent Halloween. FPV Super Truckers in the house. Hockey Rounds, Troy Prelog, Northern Tier, Matt Trombley, Brad Mondin, Titan, Safe Zone, Rock Crawler, FP Avery, Skirty Curtis, CiottiFPV, Frank Nicholas, Cole Powers, Douglas Otwell, B-Man, DNS Jules, Danzilla Terrible, Tongue Out FPV. What's up, friends? Thanks for coming. Yeah, let's see which of the two crown frames we're going to test first here. Let me grab a Meteor 65 airframe as like a control as to the bendiness. I'm going to shoot for roughly the same bendiness as this. This guy is a little bit more bendy. Oh, this is even more bendy. Oh, okay. So this has been really cool, trying out a bunch of different extra lightweight frames that are really like shooting for the moon. It's cool to see which ones have more and less structural kind of rigidity here when you do this little test. This isn't the best test, but it's a test that I can quickly and easily do between the frames. Yeah, this one's definitely a little bit more bendy. I have a feeling that so you know this little test that I'm doing here where I twist it, this is telling me which one from like a motor vibration standpoint, right? Potentially is going to perform better or worse. But what's interesting is the Meteor 65 airframe does worse than the Newbie drone frame in terms of, well, not worse, but at least the same, in terms of yeah, its ability to isolate vibrations coming from the motors, because this is going to have, like, every frame is going to have a resonant frequency, and that's kind of what I'm looking at here, is like, what is the resonant frequency going to be when it takes vibrations on in this plane. If you've watched any of Chris Rosser's videos with his frame analysis, you'll know that there's not just this one, what's he call them, nodes? I think he calls them nodes. There's more than just this one node of vibration, but this is the only one that I can really, like, kind of test with my fingers. So yeah, bro science with a little bit of, not a little bit of it, bro science with a bunch of experience and actual, you know, engineering thought put into it. And what's one of the things that's been really cool is, like, so the Meteor 65 airframe, for example, like, it does pretty good in this test, but then when you actually build the rig, it's one of the worst in terms of letting vibrations get into the gyro or creating its own vibrations that the PID loop can't understand. So this whole thing here is of limited use, but it at least tells me. So this little test doesn't really work too well when you're testing one frame design versus a completely different frame design, right? But this little test works really well between these two prototypes that are in different materials that are the same frame design, because it very easily allows me to tell which of these two is a plastic that's more flexible. And this one is definitely stiffer. So let's try this one first. And if we crack it, then we will move over to this one that's more flexible. In my opinion, you want the frame that's the stiffest that it can be here, because that's more than likely going to isolate the vibrations better between the motors and the flight controller gyro. But the problem with it doing that is if it's too brittle, it's going to crack. And we saw that on the version 1 WeBleed Crown prototype frame. The plastic that it was poured from was a little bit too stiff, and that made it a little bit too brittle, and it cracked within a few batteries. So yeah, this is the V2 of the WeBleed Crown prototype, and this should be better, and then this should be even better than that in terms of it being too brittle and cracking. But what we don't want to do is put a frame on that's so flexible that all of the vibrations from the motors get into the gyro at a lower frequency, right? Like, as the frame becomes more flexible like this, more than likely the resonant frequency is going to come down in the frequency in you know, from 0 to 1,000 hertz, and that's bad. We want all of our frequencies to be up as high as possible towards 1,000 hertz. The lower down those vibrations come, the closer they come to the 0 to 200 window where the quad is physically moving around, and you can't really filter anything out. Anything that any vibrations that are in that world where the quad is moving, if you filter those out, then it won't move at that rate, and it's just a huge problem. This is one of the reasons that lifters and any bigger 6-inch, 7-inch, 8-inch, 9-inch, 10-inch quads, it's why they're so difficult to tune, because those massive propellers vibrate much slower, and that's closer down to that 0 to 200 hertz window. So yeah, we're going to try this one first, put a bunch of batteries through it, see if it explodes. If it doesn't explode, I'm just going to keep flying it until it breaks. Because, again, I would rather have the more rigid frame on there. In my opinion, we're trying to find the most rigid frame that also gives us the durability that we want. So, yeah, let's give this one a shot first here, and then if it doesn't work out, we will switch over to the more flexible one. Very, very cool that Zotek from WeBleed sent me these prototypes in a couple of different plastics. This is the same thing that Newbie Drone did 6 to 8 months ago with their Cockroach 65 V3. They sent it to me in 3 different materials, and I tested all 3 of them. And I mean, you can really, like, with these, it's the same kind of thing. Like, I don't know if you guys can see it when I do it, but like, yeah, same sort of different thing. This one, I believe, was the most flexible. And then this one was, yep, this is the most sort of brittle. And then this was, no, this one's the most flexible here. And this one was so flexible that I had to really reduce the PIDs down. And that was really like the feedback that I gave them on it. Like, no, that one's too flexible. And then these other 2 were much better. So yeah, that's the plan for tonight, my friends. And then yeah, these are a couple of these are 2. And Zotek actually set the V1 prototype in 2 different materials. But this material here that he sent, which is really rigid, he was like, dude, don't even bother testing that. It just explodes right away. So I didn't bother, you know, putting a build in here. Man, is this an interesting plastic that this one was poured out of. Really crazy. I wish that I could. I wish that there was a way to really kind of like show you guys, other than just doing this, the difference that just the plastic makes in these frames. It's really wild. Like, I guess I'll put like the same amount of force into each one of these. Ready? So here's the super stiff one that's too brittle, right? And the V1 prototype. And now here is like, I swear to God, that's the same amount of force. You can really see that, right? And then here's the ultra flexible one. Like, that's just me using a little bit of force on each one of these. And hopefully you can kind of see, yeah, you can totally see the difference there. So yeah, really neat that the, I mean, I guess it's kind of obvious, but it's just cool to get to physically handle these things and physically feel how much of it, like I wouldn't think it would make that much of a difference, but yeah, I guess it makes sense that it does. So let's dive in, yo. I gotta pull this thing apart, so I will do that here while I read through chat, and then we'll throw it back together and start smashing it into things as we do. And also, I think, no, okay, yeah, I'm going to hold on to this clear frame. I'm going to reuse the Meteor 65 black air frame when I do that other build, when my Pyro Drone order comes in with the replacement Runcam Nano 3. So, yeah, don't mind me. I'm just going to be unscrewing screws down here. That's what she said. Hey, if you want to talk to me in the chat, all you got to do is type CiottiFPV. If you do that, it'll light up an orange like this. You can also do a super chat, or you can do a little PayPal action. What's my website? It's byname.com. Over on CiottiFPV.com, there is a PayPal button. If you want to do a super chat, but you don't want YouTube to take 30%, you can use this. If you do this, do me a favor and in the chat, just say, yo, CiottiFPV, check your PayPal. Because I want to give you a shout out. Patreon helps me out the most. Etsy, you can buy some fun stickers. Teespring, you can buy some fun apparel. Fiverr, you can work one-on-one with me, or just email me, or message me, Instagram, Discord, wherever, Facebook, and we'll set it up. And then I've got a whole bunch of affiliate links. These are all the ways that you can support me to keep this thing going. I'm completely crowdfunded. You guys allow me to do completely honest reviews because I'm not relying on any manufacturers to send me anything. WeBleedFPV, Newbie Drone, FPV Cycle, Amazon Get FPV, Oh My God, Brain 3D, HD0, Flywoo, Emacs, Banggood, Camera Butter, AliExpress. If you're ordering from any one of these websites, try to remember to hit my affiliate link before you check out so I can get some free money and use it to buy more stuff to review and make fun of. And then there's some other fun stuff down the bottom here. That's how you support me and help keep this thing alive. Thank you, friends. Rockcrawler says, hey, CiottiFPV, Gangly Gang, and all. B-Man says, what's up, fam? And CiottiFPV, been a minute. Yeah, good to have you back, B-Man. What you been doing? FP Avery says, dang, that's smart. Use the quad to blow leaves off the roof. Yeah, I do that. I do that a good amount. I also will use them to blow the leaves off the walkway. Like towards the end of the battery, I'll just come in really low to the ground, and the Cinewhoops are so heavy they blow plenty of thrust to move stuff around. And yeah, you know, maximize your time. Do chores the fun way. No need to climb up there and risk your damn life, falling off the roof, breaking your neck. Send a drone up. Drone leaf removal services, free of charge. It doesn't work all that well, but it's fun. It doesn't get the it leaves like the leaves up in the gutters and shit. But it's I mean, you saw it. It removed a big chunk of those leaves from that little corner of the roof, and it did it while I was doing testing. I'm really hoping that there's something simple-ish in that tune that's causing it to go haywire. I don't think there is. From remembering back to the last time that we tuned that rig, we basically got it to the point where it was like, it was decent, and then we were like, all right, this is good enough, because we were starting to kind of chase our tail. We were getting into a place where I was gonna need to start swapping electronics out, but it was flying good enough. It was just like right on the razor's edge. It was in a place where, like, when you would arm it on the ground, it was a little bit upset. And when I put these motors on, it went from being a little bit upset when you arm it on the ground to like a little too upset. And that's yeah, that's not a good place to be. Like, you don't want to arm it on the ground and have it start winding up and trying to take off. Like, that's a bit much. So yeah, needs a little bit more attention. Hopefully we can figure it out, though. Brandon is a goddamn genius when it comes to tuning, so I'm sure he'll be able to figure it out. But him figuring it out might be like, yo, you got to change the flight controller or the ESC, because it's just not cooperating. Technically, there's a chance that it's frame related too. The like we were talking about before, but yeah, we'll see. Safe Zone says good evening. Tongue Out says yo yo. Denzel the Terrible says good evening as well. Skirty Curtis says, I mentioned buying HD0 goggles, and you said you loved that they have deinterlacing. That's on the DVR, that they have deinterlacing. I was wondering, could you explain what that is and its advantages? I can't really. I don't really have a good idea of how deinterlacing works. I'm sure there's a YouTube video that explains it in 5 seconds. But it basically just makes the DVR look a lot better. If you watch any of Nick Burns's reviews, the reason why the analog rigs that he flies look so good in his reviews, the DVR looks so good, is mainly down to the fact that he's had HD0 goggles for a while, and their DVR does that magical de-interlacing. It has something to do with the video comes in like lines. It draws it in lines, and the de-interlacing helps in between those lines. There's something that happens in between each one of those lines, and the de-interlacing cleans that up, I guess you could say. But yeah, I I don't have a technical understanding of what it's actually doing. But it looks great. His analog DVR in some of his reviews over the last year have just looked ridiculously good. I mean, it's also because he sits in the exact same spot every time he flies. He has tested a bunch of different antennas. You know, like he has dialed in his setup over a lot of flying. So that helps quite a bit. But yeah, actually, Nick has he put a video out here. He put a video out talking about his setup, which is where he mentioned it. And yeah, Nick Burns setup. That'll probably find it. Yeah, there you go. Get good indoor video reception, free to expensive. I'm pretty sure this is the one. But let's go to his channel and search for setup here. Yeah, now this is finding every single video of his. Oh, there it is. I'm pretty sure this is the video here. I'm 99% sure this is the one. But let's also search for video. Oh! This might, I don't think I've seen this one. This is from 2 weeks ago. This could be a good one to watch here. Boop. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this is the one. This one keeps coming up. OSD into walks now recording. I keep looking because that video up there said 7 months ago, and that I feel like maybe when I definitely saw it more recently than that, but yeah, maybe I was just watching an older video. 7 years ago, Jesus. Yeah, I think that's the one. So yeah, if you want to hear it straight from Nick, it's I'm pretty sure it's in that video there. Titan says, do you think T-Motor 1507 3800 kV would be good for a Grinderino for freestyle? I do not. You want your motors to have a ratio of width to height that is anywhere from 3 to 1, all the way up to 5 to 1. 1507 is a motor where that ratio is 2 to 1, right? 7, and then you double 17, and that's 14. 15 is close enough. So when a motor only has a 2 to 1 ratio, it basically overheats. The wider the motor is, the more of the airflow coming down through the prop it can use to cool itself down. The taller the motor is, the more work that it does and the more power that it makes. The width also does add power, but the height adds more power than the width. So yeah, what we find is that if you go below 3 to 1, if you go below that 3 to 1 ratio, those are motors that when you go full throttle, you're going to get like a split second of their full power, and then the motor is going to overheat and the magnets lose a lot of magnetism when that happens. So you can actually hear it. Like you'll go full throttle and it'll like the pitch will go like whee, and that's just it overheating. That's the motor saturating with heat, and it just doesn't make as much power, and you end up with a motor that's kind of unpredictable. I mean, it's bad for the motor because it's terrible. It's terrible for efficiency. It's physically bad for the motor because everything gets too hot. The bearings start to puke their oil out. Yeah, it's just bad. Too much heat is bad. And it's also hard to fly those rigs because whenever you're like asking for a bunch of power, you're going to get a certain amount of power, and then that amount of power is going to change. And that just makes your job as a pilot a lot harder, because like, you know, if you're at like 80% throttle and then you go up to 100, you're not going to get the amount of power that you would expect at 100% throttle, because the motor is already too hot from you spending a bunch of time at 80% throttle. Or like if you do one big throttle blast, you jump off and then you dig back into 100% throttle, it's going to be overheated. And instead of getting 500 grams of thrust, you're going to get 300 grams of thrust on that second throttle hit. So like if you're diving, for example, and you're trying to like really come close to the ground and then just fly out of there, a lot of times what we'll do is like a double throttle stab. Like you come down and you do one big throttle stab to get most of your downward momentum, and then you jump off of it to see if maybe that's enough. And if it wasn't enough, you add a second throttle stab in there. Well, that second throttle stab is going to have less power. And like one of the things that our brains are really good at is like pattern recognition. And so we get used to the amount of power that you get from full throttle. And so, yeah, on that second throttle stab, if you're expecting an amount of power and you don't get that, that could lead to you smacking into the ground over and over and over and over again. So yeah, I advocate against that big time. You could make the argument that a motor like a 1507 or a 1408 or a 1407 is like maximize. So the height of the motor, like I said earlier, produces more power. Making a taller motor, adding a millimeter of height to the motor versus adding a millimeter of width to the motor, adding that millimeter of height is going to gain you a lot more power than that extra millimeter of width. So there is an argument that these like 2-to-1 motors are maximizing, and they are the lightest possible weight motor, and for the amount of power that you get. So like if you have a flight style where you pretty much never use full throttle, or you're just very light on the throttle, you might be able to get away with it, but I don't know. The PID loop is going to ask for full throttle, and it's going to overheat the motor. And like, yeah, why would you need a motor that's that powerful if you're never going to use full throttle anyway? So yeah, I would stay away from those. I mean, if you have them and you don't want to sell them or whatever, they'll run and they'll make tons of power, and it'll be fun to fly like that. But if you're trying to build something that that is really predictable and that, you know, you're gonna fly long term as like your main rig that you get good with, in my opinion, they're just gonna make that process a little bit more difficult, because they're going to overheat all the time, and it's going to kind of drive you crazy. The other thing that they do is they really beat the hell out of your batteries. The 1408s and the 1507s, I ran a lot of different sets of those back in the Acrobrat days when we were figuring all this out. And man, I ruined a bunch of 4S, 650, and 850 batteries from those motors. Just when you go full throttle, they just ask for tons of power from the battery. And when they overheat and they saturate, they ask for that. They ask for the same amount of power. They pull the same amount of power for the battery from the battery, but then they don't make the same amount of power that you expect. So it's like this exponential curve of like you sit it on full throttle expecting for more power. You're not getting more power. It's overheating more and more. You have to leave it on full throttle because you're not getting the power that you want. Now it gets even hotter. And that's when the batteries will get really just eviscerated. So yeah, careful with those motors. If you're gonna run them, use full throttle in tiny little bursts, and then give the motors time to cool down. If you're doing like a drag race quad or something like that, they'd be a good motor for that. Or if you just want something like totally for fun, that you just want to like impress your friends and just go full throttle for a half a second and have it just fire into the fucking moon, they're a good motor for that, because they're lighter, right? Like the amount of power that they give you, is up here, but then their weight is down here, so that you can get like the best power to weight ratio with them, but only for that like half a second or so before they overheat. So yeah, that's kind of the story with 2-to-1 width to height ratio motors. Good question, brother. Limits says, I just bought the newbie drone 802 27,400 kV for my Mobula 6 HD0. Please tell me it's a good choice, lol. It depends, Limits. Everybody is doing something different with... Everybody flies differently. Everybody has a different, you know, goal in mind for their rigs. Might be a good choice for you. Personally, I would go with a lighter weight motor, a 702 at a higher KV, 30,000, 32,000, 32,500. But that's just me. You know, I've been flying for 8+ years, I guess, now. And I'm a pilot that tries to do all kinds of crazy shit inside the house with these rigs. Those motors might be perfect for you. It's... You know, we all have our own path. I have something that I call build planning that I do with folks over on my Fiverr page. And I have like a big list of 20 some odd questions that I ask to try to figure that out, to try to figure out exactly what you're trying to do with the rig, how long you've been flying, freestyle versus racing, a million different things that I need to really know to then... And it's still a guess. I'm still taking a guess, but it's a really educated guess. You know, here on the live stream, we can't do that, right? We can't sit here for a half an hour with just one person going through that process. So yeah, I can't really answer that question for you. But to some extent, even with my help, there's still a good amount of R&D that you guys all need to do individually. To figure out what you like best. And, you know, you're in it, my friend. So when you get those motors, here's what you want to think about, right? 802 is heavier than 702. So when you're flying these motors, do they feel like they're too heavy? 27,400 kV is significantly less than 30,000 or 32,000. Do you feel like you don't have enough power is a separate question. You think about the weight of the motors as one separate thing. Does the rig feel too heavy? Is it too slidey? Does it have too much momentum when you're off the throttle? And then the KV discussion is mainly power related. When you go full throttle, does it have enough power? You want to try 2-blade props. You want to try 3-blade props. You might as well even try 4-blade props. An 802 has enough grunt for 2, 3, and 4-bladed propellers, and each one of those propellers is going to have a different characteristic as well. Get the gem fans. You want the gem fan bi-blades, the gem fan 1208 tri-blades, the 1209 quad blades. And yeah, you can kind of figure out, is this motor too heavy? Is this motor a high enough KV? And if the answer is no, or, you know, if it's not the motor that you want, now you've got way more information, and next time you can get a motor that better suits your wants, needs, desires. So yeah, welcome, my friend. Brad Mondin says, hey man, I never figured out why my hover was so high, but said screw it and bought all the upgrades for the Ultimate Tiny Whoop. Hate not knowing, but whatever, parts will be here tomorrow. Very cool. When you put those parts on, if the problem still exists, now you've got more info to troubleshoot with. So, not a terrible idea. I mean, like, you're going to replace parts anyway. So, yeah, it's fine. Like, one of the nice things about FPV is that nothing really goes to waste. Shirt of the Day, by the way, is available over on the Teespring store, linked over on CiottiFPV.com. Look at these avocado toast socks, yo. My fetuses are cold. So yeah, nothing ever goes to waste. Even if you buy the wrong thing, like down the road, you'll use it on a build that you don't really like, but then that'll be your like one-way whoop build that you send off to Never Never Land and do sketchy shit with. So yeah, don't ever feel like you bought the wrong thing. Just find a rig to build with all the wrong things and do dumb shit with it. And eventually you'll lose it and you'll be like, cool! Perfect use for those motors, that frame, that AIO that don't work exactly the way that I want them to. I've got this quad taken apart. Now I need to put it into the crown frame. Let's take care of that here. Next. All right, we are out of the Meteor 65 air. Well, not quite. I still got to get this BT 2.0 lead through the little tiny hole in the frame here. It's always the most difficult part. It's just because of the way that I set these BT 2.0 leads up. It's actually not that bad this time. Well, yes it is. Did not come out of there. I think the A30s are ever so slightly bigger than the BT 2.0 leads, making this a little bit harder. But still totally doable. It's fine. All right, so this Meteor 65 airframe is just going to kind of hang out. I can do the rest of this over here. All right. Murders bench cam. Let's move the chat over here. Where are we at? Freelojo dropping the Patreon link. Thank you, dude. All right. Cole Powers says, deinterlacing has several methods, but it is the process of minimizing the appearance of visual artifacts caused by interlacing. Interlacing is when they alternate even odd video. That's right. That's right. That's what it is. Yeah, interlacing is you send one line of video, you send another one, and then I think it comes back, and then another one, and then it comes like this. Awesome. Thank you, Cole. Douglas Otwell says, aren't 603 motors the 2-to-1 ratio? They are. And I was shocked that I liked the 603s as much, and they didn't seem to really overheat. There's something weird with tiny whoop motors where they just don't seem to overheat. My best guess has always been that it's because we are just never at full throttle with them. And if we are, it's for just an absolute split second, right? Like how much, especially with how powerful all these new tiny whoop motors are, like how could you possibly be at full throttle for more than like 1/10 of a second before the damn thing smashes into the ceiling or the wall or wherever? So yeah, that's been sort of my best guess as to why I've never had a tiny whoop motor come in hot. Even like when they're kind of oscillating, they just don't seem to get hot. It's almost weird. Like it feels wrong. But I'm not going to complain about it because it's kind of nice that we have one less thing to kind of worry about with them. So yeah, sort of it is what it is. But tiny whoop motors are this weird exception to the motor sizing rule. Although I'm sure if they came out with like an 0606 motor that it wouldn't work. You know what I mean? Like I'm sure that would be over the line of and it would get too hot. But yeah, tiny whoop motors do not suffer from the same heat soak that all other motors really suffer from like toothpicks to, it's just, you know, you look at it and it's like stuff that we fly outside. Stuff that we fly outside, we hammer the hell out of the throttle like all the time, right? Like, oh, a tree, I want to throw myself up over it. And that's what really generates the heat that that cooks these motors, is just sitting on full throttle. Titan with 50 sexes. Thank you, brother. He says, thanks for the great answers as always. Any recommended motors for the Grinderino? I would like to build it to sub 250, but I want big power. So you're asking for too much, Titan. You got to pick either big power or sub 250. The Grinderino is a very heavy frame. and it's not going to leave you much weight for motors that make big power. If so, yeah, you can go about this in a couple of ways. You can just say to hell with 250, and just build it to be 260, 270, 280, 290, 300 grams. And if you go that route, you're actually going to love the way that it flies. 3.5-inch propellers at sub 250 are super, super, super floaty, and it doesn't really give you that 5-inch freestyle experience. It gives you closer to, like, I don't know. I don't know if it's fair to say closer to a toothpick flight experience, but yeah, it's more toothpicky in the way that it flies, because 3.5-inch propellers are big, and sub 250 is not a lot of weight. So yeah, there's that. If you want to build it sub 250, what I would actually recommend is to do something similar to what I'm doing and run 3-inch propellers on it. It's going to fix the situation of it being too floaty, because you're going to have a smaller propeller on it. You're going to lose a little bit of power, you're going to lose a little bit of efficiency, but you're going to gain a better... you're going to gain a flight experience closer to what you would get from a 5-inch rig. So, you know, if you're amping up to build a 5-inch rig, or if you fly 5-inch rigs, it's just going to make your life easier adjusting from one to the other. It's also going to allow you to run smaller motors and not have them be overpropped. So that's kind of cool there as well. So yeah, if you go down that road, what you can do is a 1404, and that will easily put you, well, I'm not going to say easily because I don't know the rest of the build, but it should be totally doable to get a 1404 motored rig under 250. I mean, it'll certainly be a lot easier than if you're doing a much bigger motor, like a 1504 or 1505, 1506, 1604, 1804. You know, the sub 250 thing is, I don't know. Look, no cops are carrying scales around with them. So if you're afraid of being over 250 from like a legal standpoint here in the US, I have not seen a single scenario where somebody at 251 grams has gotten caught and has gotten in trouble for being over 250. It's just too, like, there are just so many variables, right? Like if you really want to cover yourself, carry around a battery in your pocket that is like small and lightweight. Like, so if you build the rig to fly 4S 850s, for example, carry around a 4S 450. The rig will still fly with that battery. God forbid something happens, you need to unplug the battery anyway. So you unplug the battery, you take it off, and you put it in your pocket. And if the cop has a scale on him, and he says, hey, I need to weigh that because I know all the rules, which he won't, you take out of your pocket the lightweight battery, and you say, yep, this is what I was flying. They're not going to know. They don't know anything, right? I mean, they don't know anything in general. They certainly don't know anything about quads. So, yeah, if you're nervous about it, that's one way to kind of skirt the issue. It's, you know, I don't feel bad about that because the 250 gram number doesn't really make any sense. It's some weird layover from like cannonballs in like the fucking 12th century. Like, it's not a number that like the FAA spent $1 million researching. It's just some bullshit proprietary number that really has nothing to do with anything. So I really don't have a problem like kind of fudging it and telling you guys how to fudge it, because yeah, it just doesn't make sense. Like, the real number should probably be closer to like 500 or 600 grams. And so yeah, fuck them. Fuck the police. So yeah. all that being said, absolute worst case scenario is that you like hit somebody and you lose the quad, and that person takes the quad, contacts the FAA, mails them the quad, and now they could potentially weigh it, I guess. So yeah, there's still some risk involved there, but don't hit people. Like, don't fly places where you're gonna hit people. Especially don't fly places that you can be flying unrecoverable and hit people, right? Like, fly smart, and you don't have to worry about a lot of this nonsense. I hate advocating you guys to be bad, but look, this is just the reality. Like, there are dumb laws that don't make any sense in place, and luckily they don't get enforced. So I'm going to take advantage of that, and so should you. Especially because, like I said, I don't know. Well, what I was about to say is, especially because 3.5-inch rigs fly a lot better at 260, 70, 80, 90 grams. That being said, I would rather us just have all 3-inch rigs, because then we can build 250 and still have it fly properly. And that's kind of where I'm at. Like, the 3.5-inch prop thing is cool, I guess. But I don't really want or need that little bit of extra power. I'm perfectly happy with the way 3-inch rigs fly at 250 right on the nose. And if you really want to play around with that, you can then put 2.5-inch props on. The problem with doing that is you're not going to have enough KV. If you go down to a 2.5, just to feel the difference, right? Like, so that you can kind of understand what the different prop sizes fly like when they're up in the air. So yeah, you guys should be doing that. You should. There are some 1404s that are pretty high KV. It's a really good learning process to put like a 4500 or 5000 KV 1404 onto a rig that's got 3.5-inch arms, and run a throttle limit on the 3.5-inch props, and then maybe even run a throttle limit on the 3-inch props, and then open it all the way up on the 2.5-inch props. And yeah, you can really start to feel the difference in what you're gonna really notice it off throttled. It's the off throttle performance that the interaction of all up weight and prop size kind of provide. When you're doing that testing, you really have to ignore the difference in power that you're going to get, because that's going to really cloud things up. Of course, the bigger props are going to make more power and they're going to be more efficient, but there's more to flying than that. And the sooner you realize that, the sooner you're going to start to get a lot better as a pilot, because you're going to really start to understand what combination of parts you like the best. And then you can stop focusing on the technical side and focus on the flying side, and just concentrate on what you're doing on the sticks. That's a goal that I always try to help people hit as soon as possible, right? Like, changing your rigs all the time and testing, it doesn't really make you that much better of a pilot. What makes you a much better pilot is flying the same thing over and over and over again. So I like to get people through that hardware testing phase as soon as possible, so that they can just focus on the flying part. And it also becomes a lot cheaper, right? Because once you've found your favorite setup of parts, you can just buy those parts. You can just buy a full extra set of those parts, and then when you break it, you can fix it right away. And you're also going to stop buying every single brand new part that comes out at the same time, and that makes things much less expensive there as well. So yeah, there you go. Great question, brother. Dan Can't Fly says, I have a stock Mobula 6 ELRS and recently purchased Tiny Whoop 0702 26,000 kV motors. When I installed them, it sounds like I'm getting vibration. How should I begin tuning? You should not. You should figure out why the hell those motors are doing that. do not cripple your tune because you've got a potential for a mechanical problem there. Just because motors are a higher kV does not necessarily mean... I mean, I don't know what kV you had on the rig, so I'm flying blind a little bit here, but... yeah. That should not be happening. I mean, I guess if the rig had like 19,000 kV motors and the tune is like really, really, really aggressive, maybe it could be happening. Especially if you've got a Diamond AIO. The Diamond AIOs are so electrically noisy that you have to run really low powered motors on them just to get them to work at all. But that's another situation where the right fix is to get rid of the shitty ass Diamond AIO so that you can have a rig that flies good, right? Because otherwise what you're going to have to do is make the PID tune damn near unflyable. And at that point, like, what are we doing here? Like, why run a flight controller that sucks so bad that the rig is almost unflyable just so that you can save a half a gram? Like, that's a silly thing to do. If you're not running a Diamond AIO, I mean, the Diamond AIO is the worst of the offenders. I'm sure that there are other AIOs that are too electrically noisy, so it's hard for me to say. But, yeah, in my opinion, you should attack the mechanical system to figure out what the hell is going on rather than pulling all of the PID sliders down and ending up with something that flies like total ass just so that you can fly, right? Like, just flying is not enough for me. Like, these things need to fly good, and we've proved time and time again that they can fly phenomenally if you've got the right kind of setup of parts. So yeah, don't change the tune. Figure out what the hell's happening. Maybe you've got a screw that's too long that's driving into the windings. Maybe your frame is broken and it's allowing too many vibrations to get into the gyro. There's something going on there that has that thing not happy, and if you can make it happy, it'll spit in your eye. I mean, it'll fly better for you. Terrible. All right, we are put back together. The motors should still be spinning in the correct direction. Let me get caught up on chat, and then I'm going to get in the goggles and start crashing the WeBleedFPV Crown prototype V2 frame. Everything looks good. Let me do the little twist test and compare it to the Cockroach V3, because the Cockroach V3 is pretty twisty, but for whatever reason it can run higher PIDs than the Meteor 65 Air. All right, so there's that. Oh, it's actually stiffer. It's stiffer than the Cockroach 65 V3. Yeah, a little bit. Okay. Very cool. I'm just going to fly this tonight because I want this frame to catch up with the Cockroach 65 V3 and the Meteor 65 Air in terms of amount of abuse and how many batteries have been put through it. So we are just going to fly a whole bunch of batteries on this frame to just beat the hell out of it. Because, yeah, I want these three frames to have roughly the same amount of abuse put through them to see when they break, right? Like, yeah, that's only fair. CMYK-FPV is in the house. Limits says, thank you for taking the time to answer my question. I'm actually flying stock 0802 19,000 on my Mobula 6 HG0, so I guess the 27,000 kV will be a good performance gain. Okay, so you've got a Mobula 6 HD0. So that's going to help me figure out what AIO is in there. I believe that rig has the Super Whoop AIO. It does indeed. So yeah, this rig has the Super Whoop AIO, which is not one of HappyModel's good AIOs, unfortunately. Although, what was my Super Whoop AIO was misbehaving really badly, and I sent it to somebody, and I think that they backdated Blue Jay, and it started acting a lot better. So that's something that you can try. I've got a video explaining how to do that. So go to my channel here, click the little magnifying glass. This will allow you to search only on my channel and search for Blue Jay. And the very first result is how to revert Blue Jay back to 0.16. Every version of Blue Jay since 0.16 has had problems. So if you're gonna run Blue Jay, you gotta revert it back to 0.16. Otherwise, the problems could be coming from the ESC firmware that you've got. So hit this video up. It'll explain how to get back to 0.16 for you. Put it back onto 0.16. Maybe that's the first thing I would do. That is the very first thing that I would do. If that doesn't fix the problems, I'm still gonna blame the AIO. I still don't trust that Super Whoop AIO. You, in my opinion, should move over to the BetaFPV cross-style AIO or the HappyModel cross-style AIO. Neither of those have VTXs in them, and they seem to be good AIOs. So, yeah, there's a couple of solutions for you. But first thing you want to do is go to Blue Jay 0.16. Cole Power says the old lie to a cop defense. Yeah. Crashing is why you don't bother with registering or attaching a pilot ID. Yeah, I do. I register and I put the stuff on them because the cops do. I mean, at Pride, actually, the cop did know about the registration number. So that was a perfect example of why you should put the registration number on your shit. Yeah, I don't know. The whole fucking thing is just such a shit show. The FAA has just done such a piss poor job across the board of regulating drones. It's really, really bad. Which is like one of the reasons why I have no problem saying like, no, fuck you. Like I'm not going to tell everyone to comply until you have your shit together, until the FAA's rules make sense and don't unfairly punish us for the good of corporations, basically, right? Like it's become very obvious over the years that, you know, I mean, hey, welcome to America. Corporations have thrown enough money at the FAA to buy the airspace, and that's just not cool with me. Like that you know, that's not a good situation. Drone delivery is a terrible idea. And yeah, the fact that the FAA has sort of been bought and paid for in order for Amazon and whoever the hell else, Zipline, to be able to do that shit, it's just stupid. Like medical supplies, sure, I get it. Medical supplies all day. Deliver the shit out of medical supplies with drones. But dinner, like, no, fuck you. Like, no, that's stupid. That's dumb. And it's yeah. I don't know. Whoopster says, is the flight controller from the Mobula 6? What? Hold on. It sounds like Whoopster asked a previous question and he's following up on it. But I don't see a previous question from him. Okay. Is the flight controller from the Mobula 6 and I put it on a Meteor 65 Pro frame? Oh, got it. Supposed to be super tight, like to where I feel like I'm going to snap the board in half for me trying to put it in the frame. That is not a flight controller that will work in the Meteor 65 Pro frame. Do yourself a favor, in my opinion, and just get rid of that Meteor 65 Pro frame. There are pretty much no advantages to it. They're not durable. The bigger propellers are not going to help anything. It's just that is BetaFPV figuring out a way to sell a bunch more stuff without fixing anything, without making the flight performance any better. That's just my opinion. I've run into a couple of people that say that those 65 Pro frames are God's gift. I've yet to see any flight footage from those people that is like great. So yeah, careful with that. But yeah, that frame. Many of us have bought that frame and made that same mistake. Luckily, it's like a $4 mistake. Biggest problem with that frame is that there are no buy blades for it. If there were buy blades for that frame, it would be a different story, but there aren't, and the tri-blades for that frame are very heavy. So even on like an 802, it just doesn't perform well. The props are too heavy and too draggy. And for indoors, you want less weight, not more weight. That frame is going to be heavier, and the props are going to be heavier, and you're going to have to run a heavier motor to support all of that. So a build on that frame for flying indoors is never going to outperform a regular old 65mm build. You also have completely limited all of your options, right? There's only 2 propellers that you can run. There's only that one frame that you can run. There's only a couple of AIOs that fit with that frame. You have to run a cross-style AIO in that frame. All of the cross-style AIOs do not have VTXs built in other than the Hummingbird. So now you've got to run an external VTX. That makes it even heavier. The snowball rolls right downhill, and the performance of rigs in those frames just get worse and worse and worse as that snowball charges towards your face. So yeah, bail on that frame in my opinion. It's not going to do anything better than a standard 65mm frame. Welcome to the club, yo. Many of us have wasted money on that frame. It seems like a good idea, but it's just not. So throw it in the river. Don't throw it in the river. A fish will eat it and die, and you'll feel bad. Brad Monden says, would you mind linking or showing me your tune for Ultimate 32,000 build? I will not. I do not share any of my tunes because all tunes are very specific for the pilot and the very specific rig that they're flying, the air density they're at, how they fly, how often they crash. Tuning is just way too easy now for us to be sharing tunes and making other people's lives miserable because, yeah, my tune is just not going to do you any good. The stock tune on an Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoop flies brilliantly, and it will give you a little bit of prop wash when you screw up as a pilot. If you get to a point where you need your footage, you're using your footage to try to sell your drone services to be making money, by that point, you should know how to tune. You need to learn how to tune anyway, especially if you're going to be doing this stuff professionally. So yeah, if you're just having fun flying, having a cranked up tune doesn't help at all. Nobody's going to notice. The motors are going to run hotter. It's just, yeah, there are no, it doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't help you at all. And it covers up your mistakes. So there's a really strong argument for it actually being a bad thing. You're literally going to be, it's going to prevent you from becoming a better pilot because it's going to cover up your mistakes. So yeah, don't do it. Run the stock tune if you're absolutely desperate to change things. Take the very last slider, the master multiplier slider, and start moving it to the left. You can probably get it up to 1.2 or 1.4. You might actually not be able to, though, because all of these different Mobula 6 ELRS boards have different gyros. There's 4 different gyros on these boards. Another reason why me sharing my tune is a terrible idea. You know, I've got 3 of these Ultimate Freestyle Tiny Whoops, and they all have completely different tunes on them because they all have different gyros. So yeah, this is also why I don't recommend you run presets. Same deal. A preset was designed for a very specific build by a very specific pilot. You are not that pilot, and you do not have that exact build. And so that preset is really not going to help you out. The only reason to tune is to custom tune for your specific rig and your tastes, and all the other things that we've been talking about here. So yeah, I don't recommend that you run anybody else's tune. Tuning is super easy now. There's loads of information here on YouTube about tuning and what the different values do. But to be honest, that master multiplier is the easy button. And you move it upwards if you want more PID authority. You move it downwards if you want less. I do not recommend you ever move it downwards, though, below 1.0, because now the rig is going to fly like shit almost all the time. So, yeah. There you go. Limits says, thanks a lot. You're certainly welcome. Titan says, would you mind showing or telling me your rates out of curiosity? Rates I will share, although same kind of situation. I don't recommend that you run anyone else's rates. I recommend that you spend 10 minutes. That's really all that it'll take to understand rates. It's just three things. It's how sensitive the quad is going to be in the middle of the stick travel, how sensitive it's going to be in the center of the stick travel. That's the center stick sensitivity. It's how sensitive the rig is going to be in the middle of the stick travel. That's expo. And then it's maximum rotational rate, which is at the end of the stick travel. Super simple to understand. There's a couple of great YouTube videos. Just search YouTube for like FPV rates, and you'll find a bunch of great videos explaining each one of them. And then it's just changing those values until you like the way that it feels. My rates are 40 for the center sensitivity, 700 for the max rotational rate, and then 0.7 for the expo. I have never had someone fly one of my rigs and go, oh God, these rates are awful. What the hell is wrong with you? It kind of should be like that. Like, if you have spent time dialing your rates in for your brain, for your flying, for the way that you want your footage to look, for the way that you build your rigs, it should be a specific kind of setup. Maybe the default rates are perfect for you. That's awesome. But usually not. Usually, like, you have a specific way that you want your rig to fly, and the rates are like 99% of that. Rates are so much more important than PIDs. Yeah, spend all of your time learning about and tuning rates, and just leave your PIDs the hell alone. Your PIDs will never make your footage look better or make you a better pilot, but your rates absolutely will. So yeah, spend all of your time on rates and none of your time on PIDs. Not none, but very little of your time on PIDs. Stock PIDs in Betaflight 4.2, 4.3, 4.4 are phenomenal. They're like significantly better than fully tuned PIDs on pretty much all other flight firmware, other than maybe Emu Flight. So yeah, take advantage of that, yo. All right, let's start thrashing on this crown frame and see how it holds up. We've got a green marker battery going in here. This one is going to have a ton of power. This is one of the newer batteries that I've got. All right. These goggles charged? Yeah, they are. Look at me, remembering to plug them in. What a time to be alive. Gauge Stays Fly says, good to see you all. Whoopster says, will the Meteor 65 frame fit the Mobula 6 flight controller? Absolutely. Every single frame other than the BetaFPV Meteor Pro frames will work with that flight controller. Okay. Apparently the motors are not spinning the right direction. That's weird. I must have switched them front to back. Let me get this into Betaflight and fix that up real quick here. The thing went, "Rah, I'm angry." I think they're all spinning the right direction, or it's spinning the wrong direction, actually. All right, here we go. And let's give it some power. Fart. Come on, Betaflight, you can do it. Here we go. So we're going to connect. We're going to go to motors. Motor direction, I understand the risks. The props are definitely removed. Only don't remove the props on tiny whoops. Anything bigger than a tiny whoop, remove the props. There's a bug with this that sometimes will cause the motors to go 100% throttle. And it is scary as shit. So don't get hurt, yo. Don't be that person that gets hurt. Motor 3 is wrong. That's weird. 3 of the motors are incorrect. Usually that doesn't happen. Stop motors, close. I understand the risks. I just like to double check. Oh wait, what the hell? Motor 1 is wrong. What? That's weird. Alright, let's do this again. Apparently, I don't know what direction things spin. One of these motors is banged the fuck up. Which direction is this motor? Is this one spinning out? This one's spinning out. This one's spinning in. Ah, okay. Motors 3 and 4 are wrong. There we go. Okay. Yeah, one of these motors is vibey as shit. Out, 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 and out. All right, we're good. Which motor is hurting for a squirting here? Who's upset? I think it's motor 2. He having trouble spinning up. If you spin motors really slow, sometimes you can see them wobbling. Man, motor 2 is having a real hard time. You can see it here in the RPM. Oops. Hold on. Oh, fart. So if you look at the RPMs between each motor, look at motor 2. Look at him struggling. Something going on with him. Something rubbing on him? And it should just get worse as the RPMs go up. Yeah, see, he's averaging like 19 to 20,000. The rest of these guys are up 21, 22. 20, 21, yeah, pretty close. So to check which motor is vibrating harder, hold the rig in your hand and bring this number in this range here. This is where all the vibrations happen, between like 1100 and 1300. Up here you can't feel any of the vibrations. So motor 1, and you're just feeling for the vibrations in your hand. I'm holding the rig in my left hand. So this is motor 1. It feels kind of fine. This is motor 2. Oh, motor 2 actually is running really smooth. That's interesting. Motor 1 is much more vibey. Oh, wow. Yeah, motor 3 has a bent motor shaft. He upset. Yeah, you can really feel it right here. 1100 or so. There's a bunch of vibrations. But since I don't run absolutely, like, super aggressive PID tunes, it's fine. You know what's interesting? Motors 2 and 4 obviously used to be the rear motors because they spin up nice and smooth. Motors 1 and 3 are much more beat up, so they must have been on the front. Yet you can hear it sometimes too, and I'm sure you guys can hear this. If your PID tune is not cranked up to the moon, this will be fine. Like as we're about to see, this is going to be, this will fly fine. It's going to make some noise in the air, but again, since we don't have our sliders cranked all the way up, the PID loop will not feed back in on itself from the extra vibration that this beat up motor is providing. This beat up motor is providing additional vibrations for us that we do not want. But it's glad to provide them for the world. All right, here we go. Time to fly. Time to fry. WeBleedFPV Crown Prototype V2 frame. I took a bunch of juice out of this battery. Look at it at 3.8. Here we go. Hey. Hey! That's better. Oh, I didn't plug the WeBleed stuff in. I will after this battery. Alright, let's get right to it and start slamming this thing around. Here we go. Ah! I thought it would slide a little bit more. Ah! How dare you? Whoa. Oh, we're good. I'm used to the battery is like half dead, and I'm used to like the first 30 seconds being absolute chaos. So right now I'm like, man, this thing flies like ass. It's just that, yeah. It's, yeah, and we already, wow, this battery dumped. Okay. This might be one of the batteries that I hurt previously and over discharged because, yeah, that was not a lot of runtime. So let's get that off of here. Here we go. Here, oh, this is another older battery. This is a red marker battery. These are kind of on their way out. These have hundreds of cycles on them. So this will be another weak-ass battery, but then I've got 6 batteries on the charger that'll be great. So let's just get these weak-ass batteries out of the way. Chick with a Stick says, your hair makes me eggplant. Thank you. Titan says, do you run ELRS V2 or V3? Any opinions on what's better? V3 is technically better, but I run V2 on most of my stuff because the improvements are, like, kind of unimportant to me. There's no, like, really big improvements between V2 and 3. When I have to run V3, I will. Oh, I forgot to go over there and plug the things in. Stop it. Oh my god, what's happening? Ah, why did I just fly right into the thing? Okay, here we go. Time to do big stuff to... So you're gonna see me do a lot of these like mega power loops. I want to catch up with the abuse that has been in this frame, that's going into this frame. So yeah, prepare for many of these because this is the move that's gonna put the most crash energy into these frames. I'm also gonna try to pay attention to how this frame does from a duct height perspective when it comes to like small crashes. Ooh, it went through there. That was cool. Where the hell is it? Oh. Oh, how did it get there? Oh boy. Ooh, that hit hard. Oh, so did that. I was really trying to like lay that one out and just let it hang. Inverted. Impossible power loop. Ooh. Oh. Oh, we're playing bass drum. Oh. There we go. Oh god. Yeah. So. Oh. Oh. What? How did that get out of there? It never comes out. Okay. I ain't gonna complain. Oh god, I hit the TV hard. I'm usually pretty good about not smashing directly into the screen. I'm sure it's fine. Oh, come on now. Oh, twice! Never go for 3. Uh-oh. Ooh, that bar cart catch. There we go. That was a hard hit. Ah! Come on. Hey. Alright, now let's get some proper batteries onto this and just keep plowing it into everything in sight. Okay, here we go. Blue marker battery. This one will have some good power. What's happening, chat? CMYK says, I don't get any RPM in my motors tab on my 65mm HappyModel AIO. You need to turn on RPM filtering, brother. Make sure you got Blue Jay on there, and then yeah, turn on RPM filtering, and you will get you some RPM readouts. It's one of the things that drives me insane about the Acro-B V4 AIO is that for whatever reason RPM filtering does not work, and I really love RPM filtering. Hockey Round says, I've been doing those big off-throttle moves with my Mobula 6 lately. Absolutely insane. It really is. Insane really is the word for it. It's just crazy what we can do with these things. It's really difficult, though. Like, you have to, in order to really pull them off, you have to fly really low to the ground, right? Because you have to, like, you have to min-max everything, basically, right? So you have to be really low to the ground, and then you have to go full throttle really quick. So, like, off on the left side of the screen. Off on the left side of the screen. See that value that's going up and down? That's my throttle value. 100% throttle, 0% throttle. Watch how quickly, like, the throttle that I need to do to really do it, the stab, needs to happen quick. Like, look how quickly that number is going to go, whoop! Like, you're min-maxing the entire world in order to get enough throw for you to, like, really have that outdoor, off-throttle, floaty, chocolatey goodness. But yeah, it's doable. Just a bunch of practice. Oh, God! I kind of did that on purpose. I just kind of, like, aimed it towards the cymbals and thought, like, well, if it goes through there, cool. If not, more crash data. Oh my God, what the hell? I forgot it again. I forgot to... I'll do it when I have to recover. Totally rejected. Uh-oh. Get out of there. Just a complete and utter rejection from the dive tunnel. Uh-oh. Yeah, see, so we're putting some crashes into this. Some of these are hard, man. They're hitting the walls, they're hitting the footboard. Oh, that was stupid. I don't know, I thought it would just, like, go past the wires there. That was a full throttle into the ground from a failed Matty flip. I love that you can see the little teeth of the frame in the bottom of the the camera view. That's kind of cool. Oh my goodness! Get you some, my friends! I mean, it certainly flies fine with this frame, that's for goddamn sure. So that, oh, you know, this is the rig that had the, ooh. This is the rig that has that little bit of jello. And it's from that motor. It's from that, what is it, motor 3 now? Yeah, that explains the jello at that certain RPM. I wonder, you can't really see it now, but every once in a while you, oh! Every once in a while you'll get a little bit of jello from this rig. And that's why. It's because that motor is just beat up. Oh, yeah. Come on, yo. Get you some of this. How do you not all have this exact build? What I'm trying to do here is just, like, get it out from under there. There you go. Woo! Ah! I'm always a little too impatient on that dive. And I try to get out of it a little bit too early. Ah! And I end up smashing into that barrier between the two bottom cubes. Oh god, battery low. Oh. All right, how you doing, WeBleed Crown? Good to go. All is well. Hey, also, I did not have to... Oh, okay, so next battery, we're going to start pushing the PIDs up. So, from a vibration isolation standpoint, this frame had the most aggressive PID tune that it could on the Meteor 65 airframe. Now we're in a different frame. So what I can do is move the sliders up a little bit to see if this frame is better or worse at isolating the gyro from the vibrations coming from the motors. This is actually a really good test because I do have that one motor that's banged up. So motor number 3, I think it is vibrating quite a bit. And so this frame has its work cut out for it right now. So let's come in here, profile, simplified tuning, and we're going to take the D gains and go up to 1.8. We're going to take the P and I gains and go up to 1.4, and let's see how this thing is. Whoa, okay, nope. So that was 0 here. I'm just going to arm it. And then I'm going to blip the throttle, and I'm going to come back down to 0. The throttle percentage is on the right there. See it? Still at 0 throttle. So that is an overactive PID loop. Again, this is why tuning is so easy, guys. That happens, and you're like, nope, numbers are too high. Let's bring them down. I'm a little bit more targeted. I could do all of this tuning with the master multiplier here, but I'm just a little bit more targeted because I've taken the time to learn what the different sliders do. All that info is on YouTube. Chris Rosser and UAV Tech have your back on it. So what this tells us here is that in terms of isolating, in terms of handling vibrations, this V3 crown frame is exactly where the Meteor 65 Air frame is, which is completely fine. I mean, like this, you know, all of these extra lightweight frames are gonna have to play this game, right? Like you can't just take a bunch of weight off of a frame and have no negative effects. So this is a part of the game, you know, that it becomes like which this is why there is no best. The question becomes, how low are you willing to run? Oh, I did not plan that one, but I'll take it. How low are you willing to run your PIDs to save weight? Oh, you know what I didn't do? I didn't weigh this frame. We'll do that in a second. Thus far, between these 3 frames, I've been most impressed with the Newbie Drone Cockroach V3's ability, mix of stiffness. So the stiffness of the frame is really where its ability to handle vibrations comes from. The stiffer the frame, the better of a job it's going to do at keeping the vibes out of the gyro. It's also going to shift the frequency that the vibrations happen higher, which is kind of the same thing. Those two things are basically the same situation. They work kind of hand in hand. So yeah, at the moment, I think I'm most impressed with the Cockroach frame, but there's other things at play here. The impossible power loop just happened like it was no big deal. Woo! Ah, I thought I could get through there. We're gonna look at where the prop rides on the duct with this frame in a second. I did take a look at that, and I think this is in between. I think the Cockroach frame is the best in terms of the duct height. I think this one is close, but not quite as good. And then the Meteor 65 Air is definitely the worst. The props really run low on those ducts, which I'm not a fan of at all. But yeah, come on now. Just trying to fly home. Oh god, I hit myself in the neck. Okay, so let's take a break from flying for a second here, and I'm going to try to show you where the props rotate around in these ducts from a height perspective. And to do that, I gotta take this and pull this down to get as much light in here as possible. And so, hopefully you can see, what I want you to look is right in here at the tip of the propeller, and I want you to see where it rides on the duct. And this is going to be a focus nightmare, but I think you can see, there you can see it. See how the tip of the prop is just a little low. It's just a little bit below the bottom of the duct there. It's not as bad as the Meteor 65 Air, but it's not as good as the Cockroach V3. Let me show you the Cockroach V3 for comparison. See how much higher it rides in there? See that? So what that does is it prevents the blade of the propeller from catching on these supports. When the duct sits up high, the higher the duct sits up, the better the chance that during a crash, when you crash, the duct moves upwards. And what can happen is during a crash, the duct moves upwards and the tip of the propeller catches on this support here, and that just stops the duct. It stops the prop and motor immediately, and it causes the rig to do that like really fast tumble out of the air. The battery in this transmitter is going all the way dead right now. Yeah, it causes the rig to just tumble out of the air because our motors do not make a lot of torque at like 0 RPM. So if you stall a motor real quick, oh look, Hockey Rounds asked exactly what we're talking about right now. Yeah, it's not good. You don't want that. You do not want the motors to get stalled out like that. And yeah, the Cockroach frame does the best job of that. So yeah, thumbs up to Newbie Drone. Maybe they did that on purpose. Maybe it was a happy accident, but whatever. Their frame is the best in that respect. Oh, fuck you. Oh, no, wait, okay. I was going to say, I don't have another charged transmitter battery. What the hell? But I do. What is happening over on... What is this? What is happening over on Discord? What is this? Why do I keep seeing this? What are you guys doing? What are you doing? Having fun, that's what you're doing. That's the answer. All right, let's get this fresh battery in here. From a durability standpoint, though, this WeBleed frame seems to be holding up totally fine. And that's a good thing. At the end of all this testing, I'm going to try my best to have like a little list for you all of the pluses and minuses of each frame. Because there's not this, you know, as I always say, it's not, nothing is a one-size-fits-all solution. Like, there's going to be one of these frames that's best for each of you. And that's okay. You know, off the top of my head, the Meteor 65 Air frame is the lightest. So if you just only care about saving weight, done. And the frame is fine. Like, all of these frames are fine. None of these frames are bad. And so, like, on one hand, that makes it more difficult because, like, you kind of can't go wrong with any of them. But, no, it's better to be in that situation, right? So, yeah.
Welcome to OpenTX.
I think I just put a charged battery over here. Hold on. Let me check. Man, I am hungry as hell all of a sudden. 3.7. 3.67. Brandon's Baked Beans is in the house! Yeah, I sent you a Cinesplore log, dude. No rush, Brandon. None whatsoever. Absolutely no rush. It's from the lightweight Cinesplore that you might remember we had a little bit of a hard time with a while ago. We just kind of settled on a tune that sort of worked but wasn't perfect. Yeah, it's acting really weird with these more powerful motors. They're I put on a higher kV motor, and go figure, the tune is now overactive. But I don't think I can just pull the values down because the flight performance is kind of shitty. I actually played at the beginning of the if you want to look at the HD footage of that log, the very beginning of this live stream, I played the entire file with the tuning moves that I did. You'll see roll is fine, pitch could use more authority, but yaw is a mess. Yaw is real bad, and like it's just doing some really strange stuff. I'm a little confused, if I'm honest. But I'm sure you won't be because you're a goddamn ninja. Anybody that needs black box based tuning, or just really anybody that wants a really good tune, Brandon's Baked Beans charges $1 a minute, which is unbelievably fair. And he will get your tunes absolutely dialed. Much better than you can do just using your eyes and your ears, which is how I tune. Whoopster says, "Why don't you like trippy spins? I love them." I just think they look terrible. I'm much less of a fighter pilot / skateboarder and much more of a camera operator. And that's sort of just my past. I went to college way back when for TV radio. I shot stills for many, 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 many years. So that's just a personal thing for me. So, to take the camera and to spin your subject upside down on the top of the frame is just the most confusing, awful thing that I've ever seen. You would never, ever, ever show anybody trying to hire you for cinematic footage you doing something like that, because they'd be like, "Oh my God, stop it." And the easy button for me is if a non-FPV pilot watches a camera move and they go like, "Oh, what the hell is that?" I don't want to do that camera move. I want my flight footage to be able to be viewed by not just us FPV pilots. I want everyone to be able to watch it and enjoy it. So a lot of my flying and when I look at my footage after the fact, that's always a really, really important to me, is that it's palatable for more than just us. Again, totally personal thing. If any of you like trippy spins, that's great for you. I hate them, and I think that they just look ridiculous. So you'll never really see me doing them, other than when you all ask me to show you how to do them. But I mean, I'm not even really all that good at them either, because I don't do them very much. Just because, yeah, I think they look bad. I've not had to recover this drone yet. So those beautiful WeBleed LED gates. So right there, that crash, that was a soft bump into an object. So I was doing this the other day. There it is again. Right? So soft. There it is again. So when the prop rides low in the duct, you can tell, because when you softly bump into stuff, it causes that. It causes that motor to stall. And more often than not, the rig falls out of the air. The Cockroach frame is the best with that. This is not quite as good. And then the Meteor 65 Air frame is hands down the worst. What I want you guys to remember, though, about that metric is that, you don't very frequently just barely bump into something. And, look, I can still bump into stuff. You can still have... There it is. Yeah, you don't hit stuff softly like that very often. But it does happen. You are going to hit a trick and just barely, bump into the gate. And I would rather the duct ride properly, the prop ride correctly in the duct, and have it bounce off and not tumble to the ground. Especially when you start thinking about flying in sketchy spots, right? If you're flying somewhere that's unrecoverable and you just barely bump into something and the damn thing tumbles to the ground and you don't have, and you can't get it. Yeah, that sucked, right? So it is something that matters. It's not high on the list, but it's one of the many things, right? It's something that you're gonna have to decide if that, like, how much that matters to you. I really wish that it wasn't a problem. I really wish that, because, you know, the other day when we were talking about this, we looked at the height of a couple of different 0702 and 0802 motors, and they're all pretty similar in the height from the stator base to the flat spot where the prop mounts. Well, the flat spot where you can push the prop all the way down. Oh God. So yeah, it's weird that, like, none of the manufacturers have really gotten that duct height correct. Like, it's almost like you would think, since they all have the ducts sitting too high, you would think that, like, they're testing with motors that are really tall, but I'm not finding these tall motors for sale anywhere. Other than, like, 603s, but, like, nobody runs 603s, so it's really confusing. I'm assuming that... Oh, fuck. I'm assuming that they're just not paying attention to it. It's just not on their radar, and, like, the first frame that got made put the props at a certain height, and then after that, everybody just copied and put the ducts at the same height, which is a real shame. Really, 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 real shame there, because, you know, it's one of the things that you should be thinking about to make your decision on which frame you run. And yeah, I would love it if this frame and or the Meteor 65 Air frame had these ducts down a little bit lower. Maybe there's a reason for it. Maybe there's another reason that the ducts are sitting up. Maybe it has something to do with the way that flight controller mounts, or I don't know. But Newbie Drone managed to do it, right, on the Cockroach V3. So in theory, it can be done. You just got to do it. So yeah, I don't know. I could be missing something, but hey, for me, on these builds, that's something that does matter. Kevin Sumner's in the house. What's up, homie? He says, joining just to see if you remember playing Quap 15 years ago. What the fuck is Quap? Why does that sound so familiar? Oh, that's that running game. No. Control the Athlete with QWOP. No, I never played that. Brad Mondin says, do you use crash recovery? I do indeed. This is an AIO that currently has crash recovery turned on. I'm not gonna, like, recommend. What I'm gonna recommend is that you guys try it. I don't, like, sometimes it helps me, sometimes it doesn't. And it almost feels 50-50. So, like, I don't know if I really like crash recovery or not. I like my newbie, the recent... Oh, that was a big hit. That was a big one. The Newbie Drone rigs, the Hummingbird and the Acro Bee, do not have... That was cool. Do not have crash recovery turned on. And I kind of liked it. And so, like, I'm considering turning it off on these. But then I'll have a situation where it, like, saves me. And so I'm like, oh, all right, well, I don't know. And quite honestly, I've just been kind of lazy about turning it off. See, oh, fuck. What was that? Oh, that was the... Shit, was that the water bottle? Did I knock it over? I did not knock it over. Woo! Okay. All right, well, I'm up. I'm going to fix the... I'm going to plug in the very cool WeBleedFPV LED gates. Oh, yeah! Now we're talking. Oh, God, don't melt! Don't melt, little friend. Don't melt. Ciotti, no quap. Yep, no quap for me. Oh, what? How'd the wall come so fat? How'd the wall come up like that? All right, this is the mega. We have the mega power loop. This is the mega Matty flip. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Something happened. Oh, boy. That wasn't even a hard hit. Oh, man, I hate when I land it right on the screen of the transmitter. The frame is fine, but there's a propeller that is very upset. Oh, okay, it's just the motor wire. The motor wire just popped up into where the propeller sits. That's fine. That happens sometimes. Okay. More bashing. Maybe? Yeah, 3.8, we're good. More attack. Ay. So, ooh. Oh, you couldn't give it to me, world. Oh, flying all right tonight. Ooh. Hey. Ah. Ah. So close. Oh my god, I'm so bad at shooting gates, I can't even just fly through this cube. Crotch shots! Oh god, what is happening? I caught a wire. Come on. Look at that shirt. Look at that shirt! Do you have one of these shirts? You should. Okay, what do we got? 2 batteries left. And 8 minutes left. Perfect. Let's get it done. Well, it's looking like the crown, this new material that this crown prototype frame has been injection molded in might be the it might be the best balance. So I don't even know if I need to test the softer plastic frame that Zotac sent, because if this is not too brittle, then we want the harder we want the hardest. Oh boy, I might have to go get it. Nope. We want the harder plastics to isolate from vibrations as much as, and to shift the vibrations up. Oh, I don't know if it went through, but that looked fucking cool. Yeah, to isolate the vibes out. So what I'll probably do is just keep flying this one. Get out of here. No! Stop it. Stop it. Big one. Oh, big crash. Okay. Oh, I fell right in there. What was that? What was that? Oh, no! Oh, God, what was that? Oh, what am I smashing into it? What in the hell? What is it hitting? Oh, God. What is it? Why so angry? What's happening over there? Oh. There's a... It fell down, like, on the standoff. That was a weird crash. That was kind of a 1 in a million. Hey, here we go. Whoa, whoa. Oh, stop it. See, right there, that was crash prevention fucking me over. In those moments, I don't like crash prevention. But then there'll be these other times where it completely saves me. So I don't know. I don't know. See that little bump there, and it stalled the motor out? If that were the cockroach frame, that might not have happened. It still might have happened because on the cockroach frame, there was crash prevention just saving me actually. When the duct pushes into the propeller still. Oh, I made it too. The propeller is still gonna get like slowed down, right? And then there's another propeller coming around, so it could still it could still stall the motor out, but I definitely notice that it happens less often. Nope, that ain't gonna work. Oh shit! I am him. Shh, don't tell anyone. Oh god! Okay. Oh Christ. Oh no, 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 no! No, stop it! Okay, easy, easy, easy. Come on. Oh, this battery's dead. One more. Great job, Zotek. Yeah, this material is... this might be the material for that frame. Everything's holding up totally fine. Doesn't look like it's developing any of the creases like the Meteor 65 airframe is, which I really like. That freaks me out about that airframe. Yeah. I dig it. The battery sits in here a little bit better. The one of the only things I don't like about the Cockroach 65 V3 frame is the battery sits. So they designed it with posts, AIO mounting posts on the top and the bottom, and so that you can do like a flipped upside down pusher style rig with like a VTX on top, HD VTX on this side, and then the AIO on the other side, like mounted normally. If you don't do that, those little posts are what hold the battery in the bay, keep it from sliding out. And those little posts put little marks on the battery. And it's hard to see. It's not a big deal. But I have heard people complain about it before. I've run hundreds, if not thousands, of batteries through Cockroach frames that have had that setup before, because they've all had that setup, and it's been completely fine. You just get little marks in the batteries. Ooh, like it doesn't hurt anything. But yeah, that's kind of I'm struggling to find things that I don't like about the Newbie Drone frame. That's definitely one of them. Douglas Otwell says, I have a Meteor 65 frame with the BetaFPV 802s, which fit the ducts perfectly. Interesting. So I took the height measurement on the Beta 0802s from their website, and it was not much different than these 702s that I fly, manufactured by HappyModel. Oh god. But maybe their website's wrong, or maybe that 0.5 millimeter is all that it takes. But that's interesting. I mean, the other thing is that the duct is like what, 3-4 millimeters tall. Why not design it so that the 802 motors ride the very top part of the duct, and then that way the 702s will ride right around the middle? You know what I mean? Like, why do all of the propellers ride so low in the duct? If anything, you would kind of want it the other way around, I would think. But yeah, I don't know. It's I don't have any of the answers. bailed on that Matty flip. I knew I was not lined up right. Oh, God, no. Ah. Ooh, that was a hot one. Ooh, I think it went through. That's what she said. Is it? Ah, drum set ate me. Oh boy. Oh, this is gonna be a tough one to get out of. See if we can do it. Nope, it ain't coming out of there. We try yaw. Nah. There are some situations where a tiny whoop is never going to come out of. This is one of them. I think I just saw someone say 100 chaos and mayhem. Goddamn right. All right, last little bit of battery here on this crown frame. I'm impressed, man. We are lucky motherfuckers to have 3, not 1, not 2, but 3 ultra lightweight frame options, all of which are pretty damn good. Like, there's not one of these frames that it's like, ah, it's junk. Definitely don't get that. They all have subtle pluses and minuses, which is great because that means you can buy all 3 of them for like $15 whole total and see which ones you like best. Let's give this one last look over after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 relatively hard batteries of a Bastion. So, I mean, it looks just like it did at the beginning of the stream. There's no, I'm not seeing any real issues with it. This one propeller is fucked. What happened here? This one propeller has a big chunk taken out of it. What the shit? Is that motor 3 that's vibrating really hard? No, that's motor 1. Weird. Got a big chunk. It might have been from when I smashed into the cymbal. Yeah, it looks, it's spotless. There's nothing, not even like scraped up really. Means we need to crash it harder. It is going to get crashed harder. You know, one of the other things I wanted to check is how resistant the ducts are to being squeezed like this. This is tough because like the location of the supports is going to really affect this quite a bit. Let's do this on the overhead. So yeah, like if I do the squeeze test on top of the support, it's going to be a lot stronger than if I push like over here. But I'm gonna try to push on these ducts with sort of the same amount of force, so that you guys can kind of see how, to see what the deflection is like on these, right? All right, so there's the WeBleed, and I'll kind of try to tell you what. Okay, so that's way stronger, as you would expect. It's got a lot more supports here. This is the Meteor 65 Air. So this is going to resist the, you know, when you hit stuff, this is going to resist the duct moving in a lot better. And then this is the Cockroach V3. The Cockroach V3, the duct here is significantly thicker, and it's down farther. And you can really feel that when you do this. Even though it only has that one support on the outside here, this one is almost as resistant as the Meteor 65 Air. This one's interesting. It's really strong right here. Very strong right here on top of this support. But then over here away from the support, it's a little bit less strong than the Meteor 65 Air. Yeah, you can see it. You can definitely see that. This is deflecting much more. But then, yeah, the crown frame definitely deflects the most. This is definitely the most wobbly not wobbly, but the duct has the least strength in terms of collapsing in and hitting the propeller. You know, this could be a good thing. It being loose like this, when it crashes, look how much the motor moves. See how the propeller and the motor move when this happens? That's what we want. This frame is potentially going to be easier on the motors. See, that's a perfect example of one of the other things that's going to be drastically different between these frames. And I don't know the answer to this, but one of these frames is going to put less energy into the motors. It's going to be easier on the motors. That would be really hard to quantify. Like, that would be pretty much impossible to test. I would have to test a bunch of like, I won't be able to test that. I'll just say that. And I don't even know what to. I don't even know how to guess the answer to that. I guess maybe the racers would be able to figure that out. But yeah, I won't be able to figure that out. It's much more complicated than just saying like, oh, this one I can push on the hardest and it deflects the least, so that's going to be the best. Because it's also related to the motor base. Like, even like if this is strong, but then the motor base is locked down, that's going to be harder on the motor shaft. So yeah, that's something that even just guessing, it's kind of worthless to even guess about that. But those are going to be some of the differences between these frames. I mean, if you get these 3 frames and you build 3 identical rigs, and one of them is eating motors, and you're running the same motors, if one of them's eating motors more than the others, then hey, you figured that out for yourself. But again, that's something that's going to be different for everybody, because we all crash at different speeds into different objects. So yeah, even if I was somehow able to kind of figure that out, it would be different for the rest of you monkeys. So yeah, can't really help. Last couple of comments, then we're going to shut this down so I can go get something to eat. Douglas Otwell, we got that. Brad Mondin says, any advice for turtle mode on all wood floors? Hardly ever get it to flip. More powerful motors is the answer. 0702, 30,000 kV, 32,000 kV on bi-blades on a nice lightweight rig will rip right over. Yeah, that is a power problem, unfortunately. Jay says, does the WeBleed Cockroach 65 frame have a front or back? It does, actually, because in the back, it's got these little hooks on it, these little hookers on it, to hold a T antenna. If you wanted to really get crazy range, you could put an ELRS T antenna back here. Do I have one floating around? I don't. But yeah, so that's the back of the frame. I mean, other than that, I think the frame is, what's the word for the same front to back? Same front to back. Yeah, other than these little hookers, the battery bay is perfectly centered, and everything else about the frame is exactly the same front to rear. Which is not a good thing, not a bad thing. Symmetrical. It is symmetrical front to back. Last comment of the night. Nope, that was it. That was the last comment of the night. Thanks, friends. MFRFPV says, chaos and heathenism. Indeed. CiottiFPV.com. Support me. I'll keep doing this. We'll keep testing stuff. We'll keep figuring out the best possible flying micros that we can. Cool. Patreon definitely helps me out the most, but buy yourself something nice this Friday when you get paid. You deserve it. Be good, friends. Let me find some music, and we'll get a little outro going here. Below freezing. Epic suspense. Yeah, this song's okay. This is kind of overused, but most copyright-free music is overused. Whop! Here we go. Here's some footage from Pride. I love you guys. Be good. Volunteer for something. You're going to meet the coolest people on Earth. Have an excellent afternoon. I'll see you guys on Friday. My name's Aaron Ciotti. Everybody calls me Ciotti LMNOP. Later, people. Nah, this is not the one. This is the one. This is the one. Here you go, friends. See ya!